Up all day and all night, pushing all the buttons up to something till it's alright. He looking at it from all sides and angles. Got a stripes on his body like he played for the Bengals.
Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of State of the Jungle, live from the First Star Logistics Studio right here in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm your host, Malik Wright. Joined by my co-host, as always, we've got Logan Fulmer, and we're joined by the man, Evan McPhillips. Welcome to the show, my man. Again, excited to have you. It feels like it's been a while since I've seen you guys. Not really, actually. It's been since 1 o'clock in the morning. I saw you guys earlier when we did a live where we talked about the disrespect that's coming the Bengals' way. But before we jump into all that, I know Evan has a lot he wants to say, and I'm actually going to let him open up the show with his monologue. But before I do, make sure you guys give this video a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We greatly appreciate all the support that you guys give us on a consistent basis. But without further ado, Evan, the floor is yours.
Oh, Lord. All right. Well, Malik, you know me, right? I generally try to be a middle-of-the-road guy. I try to play devil's advocate. I try to see both sides and argue for both in a good faith manner. You'll notice the operative word there was try, because try as I might, Malik, I just cannot get on board with this NFL decision. It is unfair for many reasons that we've already covered, but I'll tell you what the most frustrating part of this is to me. The most frustrating part is the PR campaign that NFL mouthpieces have seemed to go on today. And I'll start by talking about Rich McKay, what he said when he told the media that people weren't logistically comfortable with having a potential Bills-Bengals division game at a neutral site. Can you please delve into that more? Because that sounds like the most vague PR statement BS I've ever heard in my life. I mean, weren't logistically comfortable. If you have multiple stadium venues that are having issues where, hey, they have pre-scheduled concerts or other engagements, okay, I'll hear you out on that. But give us those details. At least give us that showing of effort that you are at least trying to make this happen. Giving us this vague statement and then just saying, trust us, we sure tried, is not cutting it. It's absolutely ridiculous. On top of that, we look at what Tom Pelissero said earlier on Twitter and on NFL Network. He says one question that the NFL and Competition Committee had to ask as it navigated this unprecedented situation is, how important really is home field advantage? Answer, not important enough to rearrange the entire playoff schedule for one game. Let's talk about that a little bit more. The value of home field advantage, as determined by the people we call the all-knowing bookmakers in Vegas, as well as the extensive research of the wonderful analytics community, SAS, PFF, Pro Football Reference, all of these places have done this research. According to a study done by Action Network in 2016, players like Prime Antonio Brown, OBJ, AJ Green, or even Le'Veon Bell would have been worth only a half a point value to the spread. You're talking about a valuation of the home field advantage at about 2 points. So you're talking about losing 4 Antonio Browns in their prime. You're talking about losing 3 or 4 Aaron Donalds to your team by ignoring that home game. So if you want to make a defense of the league's decision, don't get on national TV and say that home field advantage doesn't really matter that much, especially in the playoffs, and sit there and lie to our faces when we have this info. Betting is bigger than ever. Are you kidding? How are you going to sit here and tell these people who look at this religiously, some people do, and lie to them and tell them that home field doesn't matter? I mean, it's just absolutely infuriating. Then, of course, we have the league contradicting themselves with, we know it's a half game between the Bengals and the Cincinnati, or Bengals and the Ravens. Well, we definitely need a coin flip for that. But yet, if the scenario arises where the Bengals are the half game with Kansas City, suddenly it doesn't apply there. And when they asked them about that, they said it wasn't even brought up or discussed. Are you kidding me? You are there specifically to try and imagine a place where it is regularly fair to all of these people. You talk about equality and competition. It's not anywhere to be found in this. You're not listening to the rules that you established, making up new rules on the fly right before the playoffs. We know all the reasons that this is unfair. And to divert from them right before the playoffs and then ask a bunch of owners with vested interest in either not seeing the Bengals or their own interests that they may have based on their personal feelings about owners. You're going to let that make a decision this monumental. I mean, of course, go beat the Ravens. That's fine. Understand, that's great. We can still examine this situation and say, this is unfair, and the reasons you are giving us are not even close to accurate. So if you did have good basis for making this decision, please give us the real story, because right now what you are putting out is absolute bogus, and we all see through it. There's my little piece. I'm sorry. I had to get that off my chest. Here, get that.
Let Evan cook. Let Evan cook. Okay. I thought I brought it last night, but clearly Evan had a lot to get off his chest. And now we got to match the energy. I was a little low energy. I was a little down. I was like, oh, man. But you got me pumped up. But before I get into my whole rant, say what I got to say, my man Logan, what do you got to say to this?
I mean, after you guys listened to Malik last night, Evan there too. Everything has been said for the most part at this point. But the most frustrating thing for me is the fact that, they clearly went through all the scenarios. Okay, let's see how we can do this to help the Chiefs. Okay, they got the neutral sites, whatever. They don't lose the 1 seed, whatever. Okay, now let's go check off the Bills. Okay, the Bills went through this traumatic experience. Let's make sure, they don't need to go to Arrowhead, just whatever. We're going to check them off. They got the 2 seed. And they're like, okay, let's look at the AFC North. Let's make sure the Baltimore Ravens have a fair shot. And then they just stopped. Like, they just completely and utterly skipped over every single factor that involved the Cincinnati Bengals. And it was so blatantly obvious too. Like, it was so close. It was so close to being nearly perfect. Everybody talks about how the league, it was like, oh, not everybody's going to be happy. Not everybody's going to be happy. But you were like 2 or 3 adjustments away from making everybody happy. Like, I don't understand. They were so close. They were so close. All you got to do, like Evan said, apply the coin flip to the Chiefs Bengals, apply the coin flip to the Bills Bengals, or just make it all neutral sites, whatever it was. They were so close. But they just chose to blatantly ignore anything that could have possibly went the Bengals' way. They counted out the possibility of the Ravens maybe beating the Bengals. So let's reward the Ravens for that. Like that, the fact that the Bills-Bengals game, the winner of that game would have hosted the potential Bills-Bengals matchup in the playoffs. So the common sense answer would be, okay, let's just play out a neutral field because that game never got played. The Bengals didn't have their opportunity to earn home field. The Bills didn't have the opportunity to lose home field. That was just cool with them. They didn't care about that. They didn't care that the Bengals lost their opportunity to control their own destiny, to have this home field advantage that, as Evan alluded to, is massive in the NFL. They just didn't care. Like I said, I understand not everybody's going to be happy, but the fact that you were so close and then just decided to completely ignore and not just blatantly not care about the Bengals, it just blows my mind. And they didn't even try to hide it either. Everything about it was just so blatantly obvious that they didn't care about anything involving the Cincinnati Bengals.
All I'm going to say is make sure the respect is just as loud as the disrespect. One more time, I'm just going to make sure that the respect is just as loud as the disrespect. The NFL, the NFL disrespected the Cincinnati Bengals, guys. It's really no two ways to cut it, right? My issue with the situation is the Bengals entered the week with everything in front of them, every opportunity in front of them, the opportunity to, at the very least, be the number 2 seed. And not to get a hand-me-down AFC North champions. The Bengals are the only team, right, that is the quote-unquote AFC North champions with the potential to not actually have the ability to host a playoff game because of a coin flip. Listen, I'm not going to sit up here and say that the Ravens didn't get a fair got a fair shake because they didn't. The Bills didn't ask for this either.
Yeah.
And I want to just say this. I want to preface this on the show on behalf of the First Star family, or on behalf of the State of the Jungle, the Sit Down Crew, the whole 9 yards. We still stand with the Buffalo Bills organization.
Absolutely.
That young man's health, Damar Hamlin, was of the utmost importance over everything else. That's why you see me rocking the 513 stands with Buffalo shirt that you guys can get at Cincy shirts right here in Cincinnati, Ohio. So I still want to keep with that theme, right? We're still supportive of the Buffalo Bills. We're still supportive of Damar Hamlin, his family. He's still in our thoughts and prayers, and we're wishing him well for a speedy recovery. And I wanted to make sure I made mention of that before I say what I'm about to say. Look, the fact of the matter is, I don't see why the Bengals and the Bills game couldn't have been rescheduled.
No. There were plenty of scenarios where you could take a week out of the Super Bowl prep. You could do alternating buys and NFC. There were so many theories produced that were significantly better. NFL Reddit does a better job of figuring out a potential scenario than the NFL themselves can.
Say it again. Say it again.
Bro, random Twitter users are doing it. Like anybody could have just came up with other possible scenarios that were so much better.
You know, it's bad when Chiefs beat writers are saying the
Oh,
Bengals
yeah.
got screwed.
Yeah,
Oh,
that is something.
Listen.
That tells you all you need to
Listen, and that may be an unpopular thing to say. I'm gonna preface it by saying that game that night should not have been restarted.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the NFL. No. Excuse me. Not the NFL, because the NFL said 5 minutes, right? Zach Taylor, Sean McDermott, Buffalo Bills, Bengals organization did the right thing by saying, you know what? This game will not be restarted. However, I just fail to understand why the NFL couldn't reschedule the game. I understand not resuming the game, but why couldn't the NFL reschedule the game? So let me get this straight. It's okay for Buffalo to trot out there this upcoming weekend against the New England Patriots, but it's not okay for Buffalo next week, right? And there were perfect scenarios out there that people laid out to why that made sense. So the Bengals versus the Bills next week doesn't make sense. God forbid we have a week 19. God forbid the NFC wildcard picture takes place next week and the AFC wildcard picture gets pushed back a week. God forbid. But it's not fair to the Bengals. It's not fair to the city of Cincinnati. It's not fair to the business owners of Cincinnati. Do you know how much business Cincinnati potentially lost because they had the opportunity to have a number 2 seed? And you got idiots like Pat McAfee who sit up on their show and say, oh yeah, you know, the Cincinnati Bengals were about to lose. You know, we're about to win and go, win because they were up 7-3, blah, 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 blah. No, Pat, you're missing the point. It's all about an opportunity. And no, CS, you calm down. You calm down. Every single body in Bengals Nation should be irate, should be pissed off, because the simple fact of the matter is it's wrong. It's wrong. The Bengals entered the week with a fair shot at getting a number 2 seed. They end the week firmly fixed as the 3rd seed. They get the first place schedule, but they don't get the benefit of moving up. Mm-hmm. They entered this week with so much on the line, and they end the week with, you get the 3rd seed.
Just because.
It is what it is.
Got to piggyback off you right there?
Sure.
I'll tell you what I think the reason is, because I don't think, based on the messaging coming out of the NFL, that competitive fairness and equality was actually the desired motive behind all this. Let me put it to you this way. The NFL has done all this after the Bengals and the Bills worked together to save the league from a PR nightmare after they were trying to continue that game. If the Bengals and Bills do not put their foot down after they're told to warm up and say, no, this is not right, these are human beings, how are you going to ask them to go back out there, even to go practice? Like you said, you want a guy to just go back to practice the next day after they watch that happen?
Right.
Are you kidding? There are plenty of teams that are supplying counselors that are saying there was enough trauma for this, for other people sharing this, that they need that counseling. And you just want to keep pushing the schedule along just like you had it. I don't want to hear that. I think this is about money, because the Bengals and Bills stood up to the NFL and said, no, we are not playing. What did they do? They cost them ticket revenue. They cost them betting revenue. Every bit of shared profits from that. And I believe that the NFL is punishing the Bills and the Bengals over this. And we see this as teams cost the NFL money. That's when they're going to be punished. We've seen this with Dan Snyder. How many in different investigations, allegations come out with him? And it finally took until he was stealing revenue from the league potentially for someone to be like, oh man, this guy has to be stopped. We've seen this again when the NFL and their mouthpieces on Twitter tweet out skewed stats and graphs and facts to say, oh, playing on turf is it's better than grass. Mm-hmm. Absolute BS. We see that you're skewing these charts. We know that you're lying about that. And it's because money. It is because grass is more expensive to maintain, more expensive to repair. We saw it with the Shakira concert that happened a couple years ago. They don't want those because they cost them money.
Here's the issue that I have. They threw out all this stuff about, if the Bills and Chiefs face each other in the AFC Championship, be a neutral site. What if the Bengals
didn't even consider it?
You're telling us what you want the narrative to be right now. Now let's talk about a realistic approach, right? What if the Cincinnati Bengals beat the Ravens, as I predict the Bengals will do? Because like people are saying in the comment section, I think that they woke up a beast. I think that this Bengals team is going to play with their hair on fire. Nonetheless, right? Do not mistake this rant. Do not mistake this show. Do not mistake what we're talking about for us saying that the Bengals can't beat them. That's not what we're saying. We're not saying the Bengals can't run the table. I'm saying it isn't fair the Bengals didn't get a fair shake.
Right.
But back to what I'm saying. You mean to tell me the Bengals versus Bills can even be a neutral site? The Bengals versus Bills can even be a neutral site? And then you have people who cover the Cincinnati Bengals like Jay Morrison who want to die on a hill that the NFL, what they did was right. It was fair. Nobody is running laps. Nobody agrees with you. Nobody is saying you're 100%. It was wrong. The Bengals were done wrong. The Bengals are the only losers, true losers in this scenario. Yep. They came into the week with everything in front of them. And again, I came up here to shake up the game, and that's why I'm talking about it. That's why I call people out by name. That's why I name drop. That's why I say what I have to say. And somebody's going to call this BS out. All talking heads, all these media guys like Pat McAfee, they're taking laps, and they're saying they don't understand why Bengals fans are upset. You only understand from your level of perception. The fact of the matter is, everybody knew the Cincinnati Bengals entered this week with everything in front of them. And what do they get for it? And guess what? I still commend Zach Taylor. I still commend Sean McDermott, the Buffalo Bills organization, the Bengals organization, for the way that they handled that situation to where they said, you know what? Our players, we're not going to play. They can't play after what they just witnessed. Somebody's got to call it out. It's bullshit. Logan?
The thing I just kind of thought of as you were ranting there a little bit is just, could you imagine if, the Bengals and Chiefs just switched spots and they did this to the Kansas City Chiefs right now? Like, everybody would be losing their mind. They knew that they pissed off the Cincinnati Bengals. Don't care. Like, that doesn't matter to them. They pissed off the Cincinnati Bengals.
Enough people don't like Mike Brown anyways. That might be a positive.
Exactly. They're like, who really cares? Like, and that's just why it's so frustrating again, because it comes back to just the whole, everything we talk about every week is just how wide the bias against the Bengals. I said it every week, Malik, on the show that the Bengals have every opportunity to prove themselves throughout the rest of the season. And the NFL took that away from them. And that is absolutely unacceptable. That's not a fair thing to do to anything. Everybody plays every season to win their division and to host a playoff game. And the fact that that might not even be on the table for the Cincinnati Bengals is unacceptable.
Ludicrous.
Like, it doesn't make any logical sense. I can't wrap my head around it.
Daniel, get to this guy's comment CS up here. I want to address you real quick because you keep popping off in the chat and you're saying you don't know why it's not even just about this singular incident. What precedent does that set for the future? Are you okay with being walked off on? No one's diminishing the Bengals as the best team. CS, that's what you're missing. We understand they got to play us. We understand that the Bengals are the defending AFC North champions and the defending AFC champions, dog. We understand that. We don't need you to come in the comment section and give us a lesson. Everybody knows that. All 180 plus people that are in this chat right now, we understand that. It's not the point. It's the simple fact that it's a harder road to the Super Bowl now for the Bengals.
Yep.
Who wants to play in Buffalo in January?
Nobody.
Who wants to? So stop sitting up here saying, oh, we understand the Bengals are the better. We know that.
Yep.
It's about getting a fair shake. Imagine if you were up for a promotion at your job and then they said, oh, never mind. CS, didn't you call out of work today? Oh, we were only giving it to people who were actually in the office today. You would feel slighted. You would feel shafted. You would be pissed.
Well, they changed the rules literally
Literally.
before the playoffs in the middle of the season. They have written rules saying this is the procedure we are going to follow for this league year. And it's sent to every team and all the players and all the coaches and everybody has access to this, which Joe Mixon absolutely showed that off the other day that people are sharing that with him and probably within the organization saying, hey, I don't know what's going on. Here's the rules. We don't know what to tell you. And that's unfair. It's changing the rules in the middle of the freaking season.
Especially when you already have a rules established already.
For the exact scenario.
But it was changed. So all I'm simply saying is I'm not saying that the Bengals or the Bengals aren't the better team, but it's clearly biases. It's clearly they wanted The Bengals are at a disadvantage now.
There's not the consistency in the change. Like we said, if you're going to change it, okay. So then why is the Bengals Chiefs scenario not the same for the Baltimore Ravens? It's the exact same thing where you have a team with potential head-to-head win advantage and as well as having that half game difference.
Yep.
It's the same scenario with Baltimore. So why is it different? Why was it not even considered? Not even thought about? I mean, that's just utterly ridiculous and it should infuriate everybody because this is the commission who is supposed to think through these scenarios and figure this out. Like we said before, it took people on Twitter less than a day to figure out a solution. And I don't think it's coincidental that it's just now that we've heard from Roger Goodell today.
Yep.
There's good news floating around. There's other stuff floating around. It was a perfect time for him to make a showing.
The most sickening thing about everything, I think, is the fact that the league kind of put the precedent on, like, if God forbid this incident happens again, you better find a way to play that game. You better find a way to finish the game.
It's not about the players.
It's embarrassing. Like we talk about here, this has probably been one of the biggest years talking about player health, player safety, and everything. And they've just handled it wrong time and time again. And like, I don't know what the players are ever going to do about it. I don't even know if they can even do anything about it. But like I said, the fact that the league pretty much told everybody, if this ever happens again, you better find a way to play this game or you're like, it's not going to benefit you is just, it's just disturbing. Like that's not how.
That's a horrifying precedent.
Dude, it's terrible. It's sickening. Everything about it sucks. Like Josh Allen said it today. That event is going to stick with every single person who watched it happen for the rest of their lives. Trauma does not just go away in somebody's life. It will stick with them. It will change these people's lives forever. But
wait, hold on.
NFL.
CS, stop. Show class. I take that extremely personal from a guy that had a friend in high school who died on a football field. I take that extremely personal. From a guy that sat up here and did his show almost in tears for what happened to Lamar Hamlin, I take that extremely personal. So be careful when you sit up there and you say show class. We've done nothing but show class. The city of Cincinnati has done nothing but show class towards the situation. I'm rocking this hoodie because I'm showing class towards the situation. Again, that young man's health. I was there Monday night. That young man's health wasn't nothing was more important than that young man's health in that moment in time.
That's still true.
And it's still true. And it's still true. All we're saying is because we have to talk about football. We have to talk about what's going on. All I'm simply saying is that the Bengals deserved a fair shake at a chance at the number 2 seed. That is what I'm saying. How the league went about this was wrong. No matter which way you slice it. No matter which way you slice it. The two are not the two don't have to be tied together.
So far away
they
from each
ignored
other.
rules. They made up a new one, and then they didn't apply it consistently. I don't understand what the misunderstanding is here. That's clearly unfair practice right there. I mean, remove all the teams altogether. The NFL just creating a new rule suddenly right before the playoffs, applying it, and then not even applying it fairly to everyone. That alone is a problem. Ignore all the names and everything attached to this.
Yes.
That's what we're saying is it's unfair. Sure. Beat the Ravens. Okay. Do I expect Anthony Brown to come out and really be that big of a challenge? Do I expect Sammy Watkins, DeMarcus Robinson, and the ghost of Deshaun Jackson to really be that big of a threat? No, that's not what we're all up here saying. We're not concerned about that game. We're concerned about how unfairly the Bengals were treated in this scenario.
Yep. And the thing is, too, yes, we're talking about it here because we're Cincinnati Bengals fans, but it doesn't matter. If this was any other team, it would be the same unfairness that we're seeing here. Just because it happened to our team and we're the ones sticking up for it, if this happened to any other team, you'd be in their comments talking about the same thing. It's not just a Cincinnati Bengals thing. We're just the ones who have to talk about it because we're the ones who got screwed over by it. Regardless, like Evan just said, no matter who the teams are, the team this time, who's the Cincinnati Bengals, are getting screwed, and there's just no other way to put it.
Right.
Let's keep the conversation going because it's one of those. It's just one of those ones. We appreciate all you guys supporting us. We're gonna keep the conversation rolling. Make sure you guys give this video a like. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We go live every single Wednesday for the State of the Jungle. This is only a special occasion. Mondays is the sit down, and Tuesdays is the right bet. Make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel and turn on the post notifications so you never miss when we go live. Let's talk about the game this week. Bengals take on the Ravens. The Bengals are the AFC North champions, and it seems like it's one of those situations where if you ever watched WWE before, you ever watched that?
Dabbled.
Okay. Well, if you ever watched WWE before, it seems like one of those type of matches where it's a handicap match, essentially, right? Where it's like you have everything to lose, not too much to gain, right?
Right.
Or if you watch UFC, for instance, and you saw when Khabib Nurmagomedov won the UFC championship, only he could win the UFC championship because his opponent was just a fill-in opponent, wasn't actually in contention for the title. It's very, very similar to this. The Bengals are the quote-unquote AFC North champions. It feels like they just kind of gave us that title. And what the Bengals are actually fighting for is for a chance to actually get the benefit of being AFC North champions and hosting a playoff game, if I understand correctly. Because if they lose, they still might host a playoff game. But hey, guess what? It's going to be a flip of a coin. Make it make sense.
I wish I could. I wish I could.
What-
That's why we're all so infuriated.
Yeah, but is there is the coin flip? Would they be like live streamed, or are they just going to say, "Hey, the Ravens won"? You know what I mean?
Like right after the game.
That's what I'm
Is it gonna be
saying. Like,
Roger Goodell
is there
on his
gonna
comfy
yeah?
couch
Is there
in
gonna be
his
a
home?
is there gonna be a way we
I don't
know, like we can see it, that like, hey, this actually happened? Because I mean, I don't think they would do anything like that, but like you probably should just do it after the game so everybody is well aware that this is actually what happened.
Yeah. So I guess we should talk on that. Evan, I'll start with you. Like, I know people were talking, oh, should the Bengals play their starters? 100% you play starters.
You have to.
Well,
No.
you have to. You have to, right?
Right.
I'm just going to say this, and this is the only thing I'll say to this before these two guys go. And when they go, we'll move on to the next topic afterwards. But I think the Bengals are going to roll in the Ravens. I think the Bengals are going to play with their hair on fire, and I think it's going to stem even to. I think the Bengals are going to beat the Ravens so bad, and I think it's going to be one of those things where, enough won't be enough. I think the Bengals are going to carry that over into the next matchup against the Ravens as well, and the wild card round. Evan, what say you?
Y'all messed up. The Bengals were on a winning streak, and maybe after this giant emotional windfall of a week, they were about to stumble a little bit, but everybody's been waiting for that shoe to drop, and I'm here to tell you, Joe Burrow's going to snatch that shoe and throw it over your head to Jamar Chase for 6. I mean, it's not going to matter. These guys are going to be so fired up over this. Y'all just poured kerosene all over this lit fire already. I mean, and again, like you said, expect them to roll on the Ravens this week. They're probably, based on how the betting lines have moved, I don't know if news has come out for sure yet, but Anthony Brown is looking like he's going to be starting at quarterback. Again, the receiving weapons, even if the Bengals are a little bit dinged up at corner, it's looking like Eli Apple's going to play. You're talking about Sammy Watkins, DeMarcus Robinson, and a very ancient Deshaun Jackson, okay? That's not threatening with a third-string quarterback throwing to him. Sure, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards are good backs, but without that added running threat that Lamar presents, I do not see containing the run game being an issue for the Bengals defense. Then you look at the defense for the Ravens. Marlon Humphrey, good corner still. Alabama guy, tried and true. He's not been the dominant corner that he was early in his career. He's still been good. He's still been a great corner. And that's hard to find as someone who's good and consistent. He is that. Look past him. You got Marcus Peters. Everybody knows this guy is hunting for the big play.
Yep.
We know he's a potential liability as much as he is a potential star for that defense. It can go either way based on the flip of a coin. No pun intended. But when we're looking at that, yeah, the run defense got a little better when Roquan was acquired. The defense is there. But once you look past Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters, I am so unconcerned about Brandon Stevens and his 50 PFF coverage grade against either Tyler Boyd or T. Higgins or whomever gets matched up on him. So between all of those things stacked on top of each other, I think the Bengals coast to a win and maybe can rest their starters at the end of the third quarter and through the fourth to give them that leeway. But again, where we're talking about, that's what the game is. Not concerned about the game. Much of this frustration has been around the rules, but I'll go ahead and toss it over to Logan and let him talk and do his thing a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the frustration is like at the end of the day, yes, the Bengals should win this game probably pretty easily. You know, we don't ever want to say that any given Sunday in the NFL, absolutely. But when you talk about we just kind of talked about the injuries. The Bengals are like better suited just up and down the football field this Sunday. They just are. That's a fact. There's nothing you can do or say to argue that. But when you add in the fact that you see how pissed off we are, this doesn't even affect us. You see how pissed off Zach Taylor is. Could you even imagine? Like, imagine going inside that locker room right now. The frustration, the anger in there. Like, that's something like that should honestly scare the rest of the league, much less the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, we've handled the Ravens plenty of times before. You know, the Ravens are a good football team. Yes, they're injured. You know, maybe this isn't their game, but there should be no worries about this game on Sunday. The Bengals should roll easily. We've talked about it. The Bengals are better. It is. But They got bigger things to play for at this point. I think they will make sure the world is well aware that they are very pissed off at what the NFL did to them.
So we've got a guy in the comments talking about the Bengals are dirty players rolling into Josh Allen and Malik. I know that you've been kind of going off.
Is this
on
the
some of
same
these
guy
guys.
who called
This is a different guy. Name's Thomas.
I don't know if he was the same guy who was calling a block in the back on the clear block on the front side of Hayden Hurst.
The thing with the whole the Trey Hendrickson play, you want Trey Hendrickson just to lift himself up on this broken wrist? Like, do you want him just to magically use his broken wrist to get up? No, he's got to move over and stand up. Yeah, I get it. It could have been way worse. But look at the history of Trey Hendrickson in his career. Fantastic guy. Look at the history of the Bengals. These people on the roster do not do that. We're not going to do that to Josh Allen. We're not going to do that to the Bills. We're not going to do that to anybody.
Vontez Perfect is long removed from this team.
Yes,
that reputation is just
I understand that old frustration and that old narrative, but this, in case people still haven't noticed for some reason, this is a different Bengals team. That's not anything anybody did on purpose. Like I said, if you want Trey Hendrickson to try to lift himself up with his broken wrist, yeah, maybe he could have done that. But that's all it is.
I mean, we are 7 years removed now from that era.
Yeah.
I mean, come on,
some people
guys,
like to live in the past, man.
Yeah, I'm not going to get. I guess some of those people have never watched football before.
Yeah.
Trey Hendrickson is playing with a broken wrist. He definitely tried to roll over. He got actually pushed down, which is why he didn't want to land on it. For the people saying the block on Hayden Hurst, Taron Johnson was dirty. Have you never seen?
I would like to introduce you to an anatomy book in which you can find the location of the back and realize that is clearly, by definition, not a block in the back.
It's just like in the preseason when people got mad at Thad Moss for Kayvon Thibodeau not knowing how to defend a cut block. Like, I get some football is a very aggressive and dangerous sport,
right?
But that doesn't mean every play that you can find is dirty. If we want to go through and look at every NFL game, you can find 10 to 20 clips that people will.
And this is not the Mac Jones situation where like Trey Hendrickson like looked over his shoulder while going full speed on a roll and was like, Josh Allen's legs. There we go.
Yeah.
Like, no, like
people are just looking to complain about something. Let's keep the conversation going. And so the question now poses: how likely is it that the Bengals are going to go back to Super Bowl? Logan, let's start with you.
I mean, we talked about it a little bit last week. I think they have everything they need to go back to Super Bowl. They have a elite quarterback. They have a really good defense. They have the weapons. They have, an offensive line. We got to see how Akeem plays again. Again, very limited snaps last week, but did look solid in his 2 drives that he got. I mean, but when you just add all of that they already have, and you just continue to give this team more and more and more and more and more motivation to continue to prove everybody wrong. Like I said earlier, the rest of the league should be absolutely scared that they just pissed off the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think, there's a very good chance that the Bengals end back up in the Super Bowl, but that's just the kind of team they are. If they end back up in the Super Bowl, nobody should be surprised. I know people will because they still don't want to acknowledge the fact that we're good, but we're on a win streak. You already done pissed them off. Like, they have literally every possible sign of going back to the Super Bowl.
What say you?
We know the route to the Super Bowl runs through Buffalo and Kansas City. And
it's going to be the greatest one ever.
Everyone has seen what the Bengals looked like against these teams. It's been a drum that's beaten to death that the Bengals have just not dominated. They have beaten Kansas City 3 times in a row now. And you saw how it looked at that Bills game on Monday. They did not look out of place. So it is not fair to look at these teams like Kansas City and Buffalo. The Bengals are absolutely in that tier of teams, and they have proved it over the last year and a half. And if you do not believe that, then you just have not been watching. So I don't mean to overlook the Chargers or the Patriots or the Ravens. I want to give them their proper respect. But everyone is looking squarely at Kansas City, the Chiefs, the Bills, and saying that's who they need to beat. And we have seen the Bengals be extremely competitive with these teams in multiple outings. They have proven they belong there. So I think they have just as good of a chance to make the Super Bowl as anybody except perhaps whatever the number 1 seed ends up being, strictly because of all the home games. Please don't get me started again. Malik, go ahead.
The funny thing is I saw somebody on Twitter, they said, so if the Cincinnati Bengals don't win the Super Bowl this year, the Super Bowl, whoever does win, gets an asterisk next to it. Because a lot of people feel the Cincinnati Bengals are getting screwed. And I wouldn't go that far to say that it's an asterisk next to it.
No.
With respect to the Chiefs and things of that nature. But I definitely do think the Bengals were given the short end of the stick.
Absolutely.
I think that's fair to say.
I think the league messed up here, and I think that you're going to see a very, very motivated Cincinnati Bengals football team, and I'm looking forward to it. But before we get into answering your questions, make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, leave a like on this video. We greatly appreciate your support, and make sure you guys turn on the post notifications. Again, this is State of the Jungle. This is a show for the Bengals fans where we answer all your questions and we include you guys in every single conversation. And if you're looking to start your career as a broker, there's no better place to work than First Star Logistics. We've been out here since September. Gotten a chance to hang out with a lot of the employees. You know what I mean? I went to some concerts, got to watch football games with Ickey Woods and Maurice Clarett. So many amazing moments that First Star has provided to me, to my team here. And I can't say enough great things. The atmosphere is second to none. So if you're looking to start your career today as a broker, for all the 200 plus people in here today, the link is down in the description. Make sure you apply to First Star Logistics. Now, this is the part my favorite part of the show, where we answer everyone's questions. We get into it. So let's do it.
So we're gonna start off with a question from Nick. He said, would you guys rest Sam Hubbard this week?
I would. I think that this is a winnable game without Sam Hubbard, and you want to make sure that he's ready to go for the playoffs. I don't necessarily know that this is a game he has to play.
You don't need to rush him back if you feel that comfortable. And with them being on their third string quarterback, having limited weapons already, suffering the many injuries that they already have, I think that's a good idea, especially with some of these soft tissue injuries, especially if you've got imbalances in your muscle or the way you're applying force or pressure, especially when you're talking about being a 260-pound man flying off the line of scrimmage as hard as you can explosively 40, 50 times a game. Yeah, I'd be completely fine with resting him and not risking re-injury.
Yeah, you got to be smart. And I mean, my whole reason, Cam Sample's been playing good football. Joseph Tsai been playing good football. Just let them keep rolling right now. You don't want to risk anything with Sam. It's not like, I mean, obviously it's a step back, but like I said, Sample and Osai are really stepping up right now. So just let them keep doing their thing.
Eric asked about the offensive line. How about the Isaiah Prince smoke screen last week? Was there really a chance, or was it a chess move by Joe and Zach?
I definitely think it might have been a little bit of a chess move there, because they had everybody thinking Isaiah Prince was going to play and keep you on your toes, so to speak. And then they went with Akeem Dinergy, and Akeem Dinergy didn't look too bad. No. At the beginning of that Bills game, the Bengals were rolling.
They just need him to be average or just slightly below, right? They don't need him to come in and be an all-pro or be a starting quality tackle, especially with how quickly Joe Burrow has been diagnosing things and getting the ball out. That's why people are jumping so much trying to bat his balls. You're wondering where all these batted passes are coming from. It's because he's getting the ball out so quickly. These defenders can't even get to him, and they're getting frustrated with it. So he's just got to be in the way is what I would say.
Good question here from Hunter Morris is asking, what a lot of Bengals fans are asking. So are the Bengals guaranteed to play the Ravens in the first round of the playoffs?
I don't believe so. There's still a scenario where the Chargers end up playing them, and I think there is a very unique scenario where the Patriots end up playing them as well.
Yeah.
So there are still other possibilities. I think
I don't necessarily know offhand. I don't want to tell you something wrong. I don't know exactly.
I think they're most likely, but
I think the Ravens are the most likely, and I think everyone is squarely focused on that because of this newly implemented rule change, as well as being back-to-back weeks of a division opponent. There's a lot of intrigue that draws you to that matchup as opposed to the Chargers or the Patriots, which is why I wanted to make sure I didn't slight them in the playoff conversation.
Question here from Chaston. What NFC opponent would you guys like to play, or the Bengals to play in the Super Bowl?
For personal reasons, I would love to play the 49ers.
Oh yeah,
I
think that's maybe every Bengals fans.
Yeah. That's our dream.
Gotta get them back.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see how that muddied playoff picture winds out. I mean, obviously the NFC South has struggled a little bit this year. Even the Seahawks have kind of lost a little bit of gas, even though Geno's look good. They just quite haven't been the same, especially with Kenneth Walker dealing with injury. So there's a couple teams out there, but I think everybody would definitely love to play the 49ers.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All them one.
Hey, Adrian asks, was Joe Burrow the front runner to win MVP if they had beat the Bills?
I think he had to be, right?
I mean, that's 8 straight at that point that they had reeled off, with many of them against the beefiest part of their schedule. I mean, again, not saying that anything is wrong with Patrick Mahomes. I want to give him his due, because when you look at things like EPA drop back, I mean, he has been incredible. I mean, it's not, I don't mean to disparage Pat Mahomes, because he is incredibly, insanely talented.
Agreed.
But at the same time, if you start to take into account some of those other games where maybe the wheels kind of fell off, like against Denver, where things looked really difficult there for a long time, and credit to them for fighting through against a divisional rival like that. And, well, if you want to call them a rival, the Chiefs have kind of had their number for quite a bit. But still, I want to give them their proper due. But how impressive of a run that they have made over the last 8 weeks, and then beating the Bills, who are a lot of people's darlings to come out of the AFC this year. I don't see how Joe Burrow could not be squarely in that conversation, especially with Jalen Hurts dealing with injuries.
Yeah, I think especially when you consider the fact that, like, obviously, you know, Mahomes has the numbers and he's just so utterly amazing at the game of football. But the fact that Joe Burrow's numbers aren't that much worse, and he beat Patrick Mahomes, he would have beat Josh Allen in this scenario. He beat Tom Brady. He's beat all these teams in this stretch of football. It's like, it's kind of at that point where, like,
Who's left?
Yeah, and if somebody, like, if he wasn't going to win the MVP with the year he had, beating all these people, then when is anybody ever going to beat Patrick Mahomes?
Good question here from Anthony Anderson. Do you guys think that the NFL is showing bias towards the Chiefs in this whole situation?
I think the NFL is showing bias towards the narrative that they want it to be.
Yeah.
Right. I think that they are showing bias towards trying to make Week 18 as fun and have fans as invested as possible. They don't want people going, oh, this Bengals-Ravens game is going to be a joke. You've got a third-string quarterback and nothing on the line, and the Bengals are resting their starters. There goes a game that anybody cared about. I think that was a primary decision. Like we said, money is the motive. The NFL is a business first. Player safety, everything else is second. It is about money, period.
So we got a good question here once again. Matthew is asking about the whole situation. Why is Bills-Bengals divisional round not on a neutral field? Shouldn't Buffalo want that too for it to be fair?
Dang.
I mean, yeah, you think so, but the fact that that's not even
there's logistical issues that the NFL just doesn't feel comfortable with. I mean, they can't speak on it any more than that, but logistical issues, like, doesn't that just sound like something you get from the customer service line? Like,
literally,
when you're trying to return something, they'd be like, the logistics of getting you your new package, it's tough. We're not going to do it. Like, come on.
I wonder, have we, like, heard the teams that, because I know the rule almost didn't get passed, or this proposal. I wonder if the Bills voted yes or no.
I saw that the Chiefs abstained from that, but I don't have all the information on exactly who abstained from the voting and who participated. But it would definitely be interesting. But I don't think I would blame Buffalo or anything like that for protecting their own interests. And that's
just curious.
That comes back to the problem again with having this vote right in the middle, or right at the end of the season, right before the playoffs. Is as much as anyone may want to do what's right, hypothetically, again, these are billionaires and multimillionaires. They may care more about the money, but of course they're going to go to bat for their team and protect their franchise and their own interests. And you can't blame anybody for that. I understand that motivation. Again, it just goes back to the problem that we have with just making this rule up right now and ignoring the already written and established rule for the season.
Josh has the question. If we win on Sunday, does that mean we will be home next week? Yes. If you win, you win, you get the home playoff game.
Yes.
But the whole conversation still is, if it is it fair? So
why should that even be a conversation when they are the divisional winner, which is supposed to guarantee you at least that home?
Don't say we're the AFC North champions if we're not. Pretty much,
right?
You know, like, there's no point to do that. There was no point to prematurely do that. Even if they just would have been like, hey, play for the AFC North Championship game this weekend, I'd have been like, whatever. Like, I can understand that more.
Question here from Sean: biggest, if any, concern about the Bengals team going into the playoffs?
Cornerback core. I mean,
I was going to say cornerback health scares me. Again, we talked the last time I was on about cluster injuries, and
getting there.
That is. Corner and offensive line are places where you can probably survive one injury, but as soon as you start getting two, there are weak points in your defense or in your offensive line that, especially in the playoffs, coordinators can scheme up different ways to really attack that weakness. So it's definitely going to be important. I think they can sustain, like I said, one injury at that point. Very glad to see that Eli Apple is trending the right way, but it's getting thin there. So they definitely are going to need some injury luck throughout this playoff run.
And same thing with the offensive line too. Just, I mean, we talked about how Hakeem looked solid in the two drives we got to see. I'd like to see a little bit more just snaps, not saying he played good or bad. I would just like to continue to see how he plays these next few weeks.
Right.
So sticking this conversation about the Ravens, Chris asks, is there any chance that Lamar Jackson is going to be playing in the playoff game?
Yes. I think there's a chance he plays in the playoff game.
I think he is not been motivated to get back in the regular season with all the contract talk. He's obviously taken to Twitter to vent his frustration in that regard, not on more than one occasion. I think this is his way of kind of putting his foot down and showing the value of himself to that organization. And I think
But that's
being-
also a crappy way, right? You think about it, right?
It's unfortunate, man,
He's
but
walking the
these are-
fine line.
this is what players have to do
Yep.
to get the leverage over organizations who wield things like the franchise tag that they can use to keep these players locked up under control. And whether you have these reservations about Lamar Jackson's
Right.
development as a passer, you cannot deny that he is a dynamic weapon that is one of the top, six quarterbacks in the NFL, like top 5 when he's playing at his peak at his best with a healthy team. So you already have the bird in the hand. Why are you going to go into the draft or go into free agency and say, oh, we'll try and make it work with somebody else? You already have the quarterback. You have the piece there. Figure it out. And I think Lamar Jackson's putting his foot down, but I do think that this has been a way to demonstrate his value in coming back in the playoffs to help the Ravens make a push out of nowhere.
Right.
That could definitely be a way that he gets the fan base and everyone else on his side.
Oh, yeah. To get that money for sure.
Right.
Absolutely. Money talks.
My man Kevin, well, I don't know why I said it like that, Kevin.
Your main Kevin.
My man Kevin said, do you guys think Lou is going to be looked at by teams at the end of the season?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I think Callahan could get a couple looks too. I don't know if they're going to be anything other than preliminary interviews.
Yeah.
You probably have a better feel on that than anyone else here at the table. But
I expect both coordinators for the Cincinnati Bengals to definitely get head coaching looks, especially Lou. I think Lou 100% is going to get coaching looks. That's all I got to say about that.
So we've got another question. Who is the scariest team in the AFC besides the Bengals, obviously?
I mean,
The Bills.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, no Von Miller is definitely a nice
Yeah.
touch to that. The defense for Kansas City is not as putrid as it
Mm-mm.
was 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, I would say the Bills, just because I'd be more afraid of going to Buffalo
Oh,
in
yeah.
the dead of winter in January as opposed to going to Kansas City where
Right.
they've done that before.
Right.
Yeah, we kind of answered. We've talked about that the last few weeks as well, and we always just said that we think it's the Bills, but we're gonna get to find out. We sadly didn't get to find out, so I'm just gonna continue to roll with the Bills as my answer.
Question about Jim Irsay and the Colts turning down, neutral field. Do you guys have any thoughts of why he would turn down the neutral
I
field?
believe they had a prior engagement that they had already scheduled, like some sort of concert or anything else. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I understand that that's something
Yeah.
that obviously stadiums do to increase their revenue throughout the offseason and the year. With the Colts being, let's say, struggling as much as they are, I can understand why they may have already scheduled things. But yeah, I don't know exactly what all the motivations are behind that. I feel like it would be very profitable for them to have such a
Extremely.
game there. But that's their prerogative. That's their stadium. If they want to uphold any prior contracts they have, I can't fault them for
Right.
it.
They might just wanted to stay out of it too, like
Right.
keep me out of this, please, kind of
I
thing.
completely understand that.
Yeah, for sure.
Sean's got a question that all Bengals fans are kind of asking. What do you guys think the stadium atmosphere is going to be like this Sunday after all that happened?
Vicious,
Vicious. Yeah, I agree. I think the Bengals are
savage,
going to be
ravenous.
pissed,
I
I
don't
think.
think I think almost every fan is going to be standing up and screaming the entire time.
AKA is asking, with all the big contracts and re-signings coming up, how do you guys think that the Bengals handle it? Who stays, who walks?
I mean, I think it's pretty cut and dry. If you ask
Burrow,
me.
Jamar, Higgins, everything else, figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Sometimes it's that simple.
Yeah, obviously, there's been a lot of data that's looked at the consistency of offense and defense year to year, and offense is much easier to manufacture and is much more consistent year to year. And obviously, Lou may not be long for the Bengals, but you've seen that with good scheme and with good average players at all the defensive positions, without a hole or a designated weakness, you can have a very good defense. So
I keep coming back to the name. If Lou was to go become a head coach, Vic Fangio.
don't say those words to me.
Vic
This is-
Fangio.
this is
If
P-
he was.
this is PG rated show, all right?
Yeah.
Malik?
Is it-
Chill out with that. all
Am I
right?
wrong, or is that who Sean Payton said he wanted in that rumor?
Well, does Sean Payton even take the Broncos job right now?
No.
I mean, that's with that
thought
situation
I
at
saw
quarterback
that.
right now. You've got a lot of money committed to Russell Wilson.
a
I don't-
lot.
He can pick and choose any situation he wants over the next couple of years, and money will not be an issue. Any owner will want him, want his connections. I think he's going to wait for the perfect job to come
Yeah.
back to, and I don't know that he sees the Broncos job as
I
that.
hope not.
But he might see Cincinnati. I mean, I think that these two jobs are going to be highly sought after. I mean, if Brian Callahan was to leave, I'd go after Joe Brady or
Yeah,
somebody.
this
like
will
that.
not be like when Zach Taylor got here,
Yeah, no, it
and they
won't be.
were scraping. The
People
bottom of
were
the barrel
called-
to try and find
People were
things.
turning this job, left and right. Now look at it.
Not a chance. Yeah, it's crazy. The makeover.
Exactly.
In just a couple years.
Chasten's asking, if you guys could only bring back one, between Logan Wilson or Jermaine Pratt, who would it be?
That's tough.
That is tough.
It is tough. It's
I
really
think I'm
tough.
bringing back the sheriff. I think I'm bringing back Logan Wilson.
I am too, and strictly because coverage fluctuates a lot year to year. Coverage is very valuable. Coverage is also very inconsistent, and it's been where Jermaine Pratt has been his best. I feel like Logan Wilson has been more consistent, while Jermaine Pratt has had the higher peak this year. But we've seen this plenty of times with players having contract years like this and having those spikes. So I'd rather pay for the person who's consistent, that I know generally what I'm getting, as opposed to banking hard on this peak.
Yeah. My answer kind of there is I always kind of take the short way out and say whoever's cheaper, but you can't really do that in this case because Jermaine Pratt is a free agent now and Logan Wilson is a free agent next year. So I think because of that, I'd rather ride with the idea of trying to re-sign Logan Wilson sooner rather than later, and just you kind of deal with Jermaine Pratt as however they see fit. But I do think Logan Wilson's probably the better long-term answer.
We've got a question, and Evan, this one's for you. Does my guy in the middle have 2 different colored eyes? Didn't catch. Just came in late.
I do. I have a.
That was not his intro.
People are asking about you, Ev.
Yes, my many fan out there. Yes, thank you. Lovely to have you. See you outside in my window, my bushes tonight. Yes, I do have heterochromia. There you go. You know, you can get a nice look at it. I get a lot of compliments from the fast food people that I order from. So yeah, it basically brightens my day when I hear about that. So thank you.
That's awesome. So we got a couple more questions. Do you guys think that Joe Burrow is more of the type to not ask for a lot of money?
He has every right to. Let's first get that
whatever
out of the
he
way.
wants, little or big, he's getting.
People like to point to Tom Brady and say, "Oh, Tom did it." Look, there's plenty of articles out there that detail the different ways in which money or revenue or however you want to put it was supplied, whether that was lawyers for free that are usually $5,000 an hour that were given to them, or the amount of business funneled into the TB12 business. Let's not talk about that. All right. Because that Tom Brady scenario is very unique. Could he take a little bit less money? Absolutely. Is Joe Burrow the kind of guy who is selfless enough to say, I'm good?
I think he gets it.
I can take 220 million. I don't need 250. Take that extra 30 and just spread it around the team. I think he is definitely that kind of guy. But again, no one should belittle or degrade or any sort of negative feeling, emotion, or any verb you want to put in there, display any negativity toward Joe Burrow if he gets exactly what he deserves.
Right. That's the price of greatness.
It is. And we've seen it time and time again. You want to invest in that quarterback because it's much better to have one of those top 5 guys than to not.
Right.
That is the big puzzle. It's coach, it's quarterback. The rest you can figure out. And clearly everybody feels very strongly that Zach Taylor is a leader of men and a good coach, especially in that regard, and especially as a motivator. And Joe Burrow is clearly a top 3, top 5 quarterback, depending on what year, circumstances, etc.
So we got one more question here. If the Bengals win it all, despite the mess thrown against them, what message is that going to send to the NFL?
I think the Blackburns and Mr. Brown might have a few choice words from Roger Goodell in that instance.
I think the message is going to send to the NFL is very, very clear. And Danny, I want to do a little exercise with you. You're the NFL. I'm the Bengals, right? We just went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right. Or we're supposed to go to the Super Bowl. NFL, do you think the Bills and Chiefs are a better matchup in the AFC Championship than the Bengals? It doesn't matter if you think the Bills and Chiefs are a better matchup in the AFC Championships than the Cincinnati Bengals. Listen, the Cincinnati Bengals are going to stick 2 middle fingers up to the rest of the NFL because, like I tweeted out earlier, Cincinnati versus everybody. Yep. Do not mistake this show. Do not mistake this rant for us saying that the Bengals can't get it done. Pan the camera to me, Daniel. I want to be super clear with you. The Bengals are about to go on a special run. Again, I said it might not it might not be pretty, but the story will write itself and the story will be beautiful at the end. And I think the story is going to end with the Cincinnati Bengals hoisting the Lombardi trophy. Listen, they wrote us off. We ain't writing back. And I got a funny feeling Joe Burrow and them boys is going to be ready. The disrespect was heard. So I saw some people potty in the comment section. They said, Malik, get pumped up. Get us hyped up. The time for talk is over. Listen, the Ravens are first up on the list, right? Ravens are first up on the list, and then they're second up on the list. So they gonna get it. they're going to get it, right?
It's been smacking. It's
Right.
time for
So
action.
I'm just going to say, I think in this scenario proved us we've got no allies in the NFL. It really truly is Bengals versus everybody. That goes for the Bills. That goes for the Chiefs. What did Drake say? Nice for what? So my mentality is, listen, the Cincinnati Bengals are about to do something special. You could say the Ravens going to upset. Yeah, I think the Ravens going to be upset. The simple fact is, I think a lot of people are writing the Bengals obituary already. I think a lot of people are waiting for the Cincinnati Bengals to go off in the sunset and die and lay down. I don't think it's going to be that. I know the type of quarterback that the Cincinnati Bengals have. We now know the type of leadership that the Cincinnati Bengals have. And I think the Bengals are going to be the talk of the town again. And I think the Cincinnati Bengals, again, the Cincinnati Bengals are still the team to beat in the AFC. Not only are we the defending AFC North champions, I don't even want this little AFC North championship crown y'all gave us. We'll take it, right? The simple fact is, the Bengals are still the team to beat in the AFC North, and the Cincinnati Bengals are still the team to beat in the AFC. The Bengals have showed up, and they've played everybody when it was time to play them. Listen, the bigger the game, the higher the stakes. Joe Burrow always rises to the occasion. And when in doubt, I'm picking Joe Burrow. When in doubt, I'm picking number 9. When in doubt, I'm picking Jamar Chase. So, again, you could have whoever you have on your team. Listen, we'll line up our 3 versus your best 3, and we can see who's going to win. I have a funny feeling those 3 guys, the 3-headed monster that the Bengals have at the receiver position, and the way Joe Mixon been running the ball, the way Joe Mixon was hitting holes on Monday was crazy. Yeah. So all I'm going to say is, write us off at your own expense. Again, we played with house money last year. Yeah, the W, the Bengals are trash. Ravens gone. Yeah. We hear you talking trash in the comment section. Just make sure you keep that same energy after the next 2 weeks. That's all I'm going to say. The Bengals were playing with house money last year. Now the Bengals are the team to beat, right? So we're going to see what's up. We're going to see what's up. Evan?
What's that Drake line? Is Nike doesn't pay me to show you, or Nike doesn't pay me to just do it. They
pay me to just do it.
I'll do it again.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's fine. Joe Burrow come and do it again, man. That's what he does. He's Joe Cool, man. He ain't scared of nobody. He's been there in the worst environments. All we heard last season was how Joe Burrow had never played in somewhere that was comparable to Arrowhead, which, I mean, I don't know. You
got Chiefs fans in the comment section, Bengals saying Bengals are the biggest crybaby. Are you kidding me? Y'all basically got handed the number 1 seed. Y'all was crying remember when Jamar Chase had more receiving yards than your quarterback had passing yards? Come on, man. Y'all still can't get it figured out. Y'all still missing Tyreek over there. So look, that's the way I see it is, look, people could talk and say whatever they're going to say. Mm-hmm. They could talk and say whatever they could say. You could, throw out all the names you want to throw out, say what you got to say. The simple fact is the Bengals are still the team to be in the AFC, and people hate to say it. They're preying on our downfall. They're the reigning AFC champions.
They already proved it.
Listen.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is just the fact that, like, no matter what people continue to try to do, what the NFL does, what these teams do, what these fans want to cry about, whatever, like, the Bengals aren't going anywhere. Like, people just need to accept that. And when they go on this run, when they do all these things, it's just going to continuously prove them wrong. Like, we talk about it time and time again. The Bengals are the only team that has to prove themselves week in and week out, and they've adapted to that mindset, and they will continue to do it for as long as they need. And they simply do not care what you think. They do not care about the shitty situations you put them in. They're going to time and time again come out on top, and everybody will continue to make excuses when in reality they're just better than you.
Laugh now, cry later. Your time is about to come. I appreciate everybody for tuning in to State of the Jungle, live from the First Star Logistics studio. I hope that all you guys have been talking crazy in the comment section. I hope you guys just show up, because I know one thing for sure, the Bengals going to show up. So we'll see you guys next week live on State of the Jungle. Make sure you guys give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We appreciate you guys for supporting. Hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. And appreciate you, NFL. We'll see you in Arizona.
Up all day and all night.